Good morning. Good morning. I returned Peace Corps volunteer from Panama. Any folks from Panama in the room? And it's such an honor to be here. Yes, exactly. I served as a small business development volunteer. Any small business development volunteers in the room? Yeah? In La Arena de Chitre. And a small town on the Azuero Peninsula, famed for its pottery and its bread. The Panamanian government was seeking to channel investment into the artisanry and tourism economies. And so that was my task, work with my town to find out how to do that and bring together two rival associations in the process. Los Artesanos, artisans, and Los Alfareros, potters. I have to confess, it was like asking me to, at age 24, to bring together a local Republican and a local Democratic committee to work on a joint project for the town. The groups did come together for my going away party. What the result was, we ended up setting up two identical micro-lending projects, each of them operated by the individual associations. Rivals did become allies in a project where the result didn't look quite like what we imagined in the beginning, but it worked. My time in the Peace Corps, as I know it was for all of you, was transformative. And I want to talk to you today about the work we need to do to meet this moment, to build a coalition of unlikely allies to reimagine national service, the Peace Corps, and build a better world. We live in challenging times, not just for the Peace Corps, but for our nation, for the world. Cruelty and fear are ascendant in our politics. Public discourse has become public discord. Some people are beginning to question whether the America we love will continue to exist. And in these challenging times, partisan traps can be hard to avoid. It can be easy to get mired in useless, empty political theater, of arguing online or yelling at each other, or falling into doom and doom scrolling about where we are and where we're headed. But what if we have the courage to find a different way, to lead with love, to reimagine not just the Peace Corps, but ourselves? What if we throw off the limits imposed on us by the world the way it is in this moment, and have the courage to imagine what the world could look like? What if we have the courage to imagine a stronger Peace Corps, a stronger national service program, bolder, more exciting than ever before? It's going to require a unified front. Democrats, Republicans, independents, working together in a way we're not really seeing much right now. But if anyone can do it, it's the people in this room. So first, I want to just take a moment and recognize an extraordinary victory that all of you in the National Peace Corps Association had. You preserved the funding in the budget for the Peace Corps. You saved Peace Corps funding. So, as returned Peace Corps volunteers, we're used to bridging differences. You know, in our communities, it was language, it was culture. Well, that's what we're talking right now, right? Political identity, political ideology, it's just different languages. It's a different culture. That's what we need to figure out how to bridge. And I share that story of the alfareros and artesanos because the lessons I learned in that project were lessons I've carried throughout my career from ACLU, now to Secretary of State, quite frankly now as a candidate for governor. One of the most important lessons I learned in the Peace Corps was to get things done, you have to build the coalition. You have to find your friends in that community, and you're off to a good start, right? You had to convert the skeptics, and then change was starting to happen. And then you had to win over your opponents, right? The people in the community that were like, what the heck is this person doing here? When you won them over, then you are unstoppable. And this is what I want to say to you today, and I know the panel yesterday talked about this. To continue to strengthen and grow and reimagine Peace Corps for the next 100 years, the only way we're going to do that in an era where it seems precarious is to build that broader coalition, to find our friends everywhere, to convert our skeptics and to win over our opponents. The proof for me in this theory was in my work at the ACLU in Maine. Back in 2009, I went home. I was executive director of the ACLU, and I was on the executive committee of the Marriage Equality Campaign. And we won in the legislature. We were one of the first legislatures to do so. But yeah, yay. But it was a partisan vote. Democrats voted for it, Republicans voted against it. And Maine has this unusual constitutional provision called the people's veto, where the citizenry can overturn legislation by referendum. And so we lost a few months later on the ballot. We didn't give up. We analyzed our loss, and what we found is that our coalition had been too small. We had not created space, specifically in that case, for Republicans to join our movement. It was exclusive, and I know the next panel is going to talk about inclusion and what that really looks like. So I, a Democrat, head of the ACLU, I founded Republicans for the Freedom to Marry in my organization. We recruited Republicans to come to the table. We put them in leadership of that campaign. And guess what? 3 years later, we went to the referendum proactively ourselves, and we won. Yeah. So here's the thing, and you know this from the Peace Corps. You got to build that coalition of the willing first. You got to bring people to the party that is this conference, right? Find the joy. We did it when we were sitting around campfires or dancing with strangers or feasting with people we'd met for the first time. That's the friend-finding part. But that part can be awkward. And I just want you to remember for a minute. Do you remember your first day in your new town? Can you remember that for a minute? Do you remember the awkwardness? Right? Smiles, stares, waves, fumbling conversation, small talk. Some of you, who's going to the Hill tomorrow? Oh, yeah. Anybody's first time on the Hill? Okay, yeah. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. A little bit of it might feel like that first day in your town. Handshakes, tentative smiles, maybe some stares. But you got through it, right? How did you transform that first day, that awkwardness? How did you get beyond the surface? Well, for me, and I invite you to think about that as you think about political advocacy and advocacy for the Peace Corps on the Hill. For me, it was curiosity and a spirit of inquiry, persistent communications, and practice. I had so many questions for my host family, for Los Alfareros, for Los Artesanos, and I kept asking them, and when I didn't understand the answers the first time, kept asking them again and again and again. And I also shared of myself, right? You have to share authentically who you are and what you're doing, and to practice that. That's how we find that way past the stares or smiles or handshakes toward authentic relationship. And this is what I want to say. So tomorrow, or back home in your districts, when you meet with your member of Congress, or more likely when you meet with staff, I think it's important to bring that experience from the Peace Corps into that room, to start with a spirit of inquiry. What matters to the member of Congress? What matters to the staffer? Do they have any experience with service? We know the data, most of them do not. They're not returned Peace Corps volunteers. But what else have they done? Through their church, through missions, through exchange. And of course, you need to share like who you are and why you're there. But you also want to connect with people by asking about them. And then where are they aligned with you? Getting curious, asking questions. Now, tomorrow might be 5 minutes or 30 minutes, or maybe if you're lucky, an hour. But what can you do to build a deeper relationship with that person after the meeting when you go back home to your communities? What can you do to build a deeper relationship with the member of Congress or the decision maker that holds the future of the Peace Corps in their hands? And I'm going to give you an example. So yesterday I started the day marching in a parade with some local Democrats, right? That's what candidates do. Then I went a couple of hours across the state to a Bay Festival where a Republican legislator had invited me to go tour his town with him and be at the festival with him. He brought me around, introduced me to his friends and neighbors, the town leaders, the movers and the shakers, and everywhere he went, he said he wanted to make sure they knew I was running for governor, and he really liked working with me. This was incredible. It was a really powerful experience. It happened because he's on the Transportation Committee, and as Secretary of State, I run the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Anybody from Maine, you need your license, come see me. Mainers in the house. And over the last few years, we've had a chance, actually, quite frankly, it's just been over the last year. I've gone to a community spaghetti supper and sat with him and his girlfriend. He's gone out for pizza and beer with me and a coworker, and we've gotten to know each other. And this is what we need to do with decision makers who hold the future of national service in our hands. Now, members of Congress lead busy lives. Pizza and beer might feel impossible when you may not get 5 minutes to shake their hands tomorrow. But power mapping a community or a person is something a lot of us were trained to do in the Peace Corps, right? So who do you know that knows that member of Congress? What are the areas of connection that you have in common? At a last resort, look at their donations list and see if you know anybody that they know. Because here's the thing, we can't write anyone off or out in this moment. The work is too important, our mission is too important. We can't dismiss anyone as a potential friend, even if in this time you're feeling skepticism or even outright animosity and hostility toward them. Because here's the thing, we know Peace Corps changed us more than it changed the life for people in our communities, right? So maybe this moment is a moment to confront our own skepticism and anger about where we are. Reimagining the Peace Corps means thinking not just about how others could be different, but how we could be different. And I want to tell you something else about that Republican, because it sounds very Pollyanna-ish. A year ago, I made a controversial decision. Maine has another curious law that requires the Secretary of State to evaluate qualifications of candidates for office, and I ruled that Trump shouldn't be on the ballot. That friend, that legislator, he was furious, and I didn't know him that well. He voted, as almost all of the Republicans in the legislature did, to impeach me, twice. So how did we get from last winter, winter of 2024, him voting to impeach me, to him bringing me around his town to meet his folks? It was those lessons of the Peace Corps, right? Not sitting in the anger that we felt, but me reaching out, right? Me getting to know him. Why? Because I want to modernize the BMV. I need his vote for my budget. So I had an ulterior motive. But those conversations, those questions about what he was interested in, about what he cared about, that's how that happened. So for any of you, in this moment, you might be feeling skepticism about the request to contact your member of Congress, meet with them, befriend them. But that's what was so transformative about the Peace Corps too. Go back to those first days, those first weeks. Have you ever felt so much skepticism or doubt about yourself and the mission that you were chosen to do? That was one of the best lessons in the Peace Corps for me. And finding that self-doubt and being able to move forward, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would do the Peace Corps again in a heartbeat, and I think you're an inspiration, sir. I'm going to do that. And I told that to a high school junior who came to job shadow me earlier this week. I told her about the Peace Corps. I sold her. I think she's going to apply when she graduates college. And that's what's so important about the work that we're doing in this conference and tomorrow and when you're back home. We need to reimagine national service to preserve what's best about the Peace Corps and national service, not out of nostalgia or loyalty to what we experienced, but because we know what could be for the next generation of Peace Corps volunteers. We need to do this work not because of the joy and community that we have had the privilege to have over the last 60 years together, but for the future. Thank you very much.